Hi, welcome to SteamLUG Cast, Episode 10, Season 3. We are recording this on May 15th, 2015. I'm Hero, and with me I have Cheese,
Hi.
Corbin,
Hello.
and our special guest, wertle.
Hello, hello.
Welcome.
So what have we all been playing lately?
That's a good question.
I'll start with my games. Recently I've been playing some Rust, built up a giant base. It's pretty cool. Also messing around with Counter-Strike in our new US arms race server, and some distance with the Trackmogrify random tracks online, which is pretty cool. How about you, Cheese?
I've been trying to continue to stream the s03e10 Cactus and Necrodancer daily challenges. I think within the past fortnight I finished the game with Melody, which is the second story character in Necrodancer, and I'm currently trying to work my way through with Arya, who you'll die if you miss a beat or if you take any damage. So it's a little bit more challenging. I had my first Invisible Ink run from beginning to end, and yeah, it's shaping up to be, or has shaped up to be a nice little game there. I've been playing a bit more distance lately, get some time into Alien Swarm, been playing some Broken Age, I managed to get some time into Parallax, and I finished Sanctum 2, yay!
Hooray.
How do you have time for all these games?
I don't know. Actually, I had some downtime. I came off a big contract and just went, yeah, I'm gonna have a rest for a week, and sank some time into all of those. How about you, Corbin? What have you been playing?
I found some time to play again, and I thought I had to complete FES finally, and I did.
Oh, nice. How long did that take you all up?
And complete FES, I think 10 hours completely. One thing was I had a point of a save point, and then the Steam Cloud Save messed it up, and I had to do some of the stuff again. Some of the riddles are time-based, and so you have to wait for 2 days. You can do it again. There's a clock room. You have to wait till both of the pointers are at noon. And one of the pointer is at noon only every 2 days. That was annoying. But nevertheless, the game is really great. I liked it very much, and I managed to find all the cubes, all the anti-cubes, and there are also 3 hard cubes. And then there is a secret room where these 3 red cubes are positioned in the shape of a heart. And that's all of the room. And then you solved it. But I liked it.
Wow.
And I remembered watching Indie Game the movie, and I watched it again. Then I thought I could play Super Meat Boy again, which I did not have finished yet. There are 2 levels missing, and I guess these are the hardest ones. I don't know. I can't get past them until now. I'd still have to practice, but maybe I'm getting old. My reflexes are bad. I have to see.
It's one of those games that you just kind of got to hammer at over and over and over again.
I have to learn the moves by heart. Yeah, and recently I bought Dungeons 2, the Dungeon Keeper clone. But I have to admit I never played Dungeon Keeper. But I enjoy Dungeons 2. There's only one thing, it doesn't work on Linux very well yet.
Oh no.
I don't know what error it is, but it says disconnected from host or something like that, and that occurs every minute, and it's unplayable at the moment.
Oops.
But the devs know about it, and I hope they will fix it in the next release.
Interesting.
Yeah, played some Left 4 Dead 2 at the event we had. Later on, we played together with Space Pope and John Drinkwater and my girlfriend to get some achievements.
Nice.
And one achievement was only use melee weapons and get a medal in these time-based horde modes where you just have to survive for some minutes After 4 minutes, you get the first medal. After 8 minutes, the second, or something like that. Yeah, and we tried, all 4 of us, to get that achievement. And the problem is, if everybody is using melee weapons, you don't have a chance. And we tried that, I don't know, 4 times until we realized only one can have a melee weapon and the other guys have to use normal weapons. And that was a very long evening, but all of us got that achievement.
Nice.
I thank you, Cheese, could start Crypt of the Necrodancer. But yeah, I have to practice that game. Just have started it.
Yeah, it takes a little while to get into the rhythm.
Yeah. And my girlfriend is a little bit annoyed about the sound my gamepad makes, because it clacks and clacks and clacks. That's, yeah, a bit annoying, I guess. I played a little bit Evolve, which is coming soon to Linux, we know. We'll talk about that later. And a little bit Half-Life 2 update.
Nice.
Which is, yeah, I didn't see really some really differences to the normal game. But the game is great anyway. I like to play it.
I think, yeah, the game stands on its own anyway, but the bug fixes are nice.
It's all good. So Lisa, what have you been playing?
I've been playing a lot of Nuclear Throne as always. That's sort of my staple go-to game these days. I love it so much. It's I was mentioning earlier that it's strange because I don't particularly like roguelikes or seek them out, but I really, really like this game. It's got such a good slow build of mastery over time that you can, even though it's super hard, you can feel yourself improve over time, and so it just makes it really compelling to go back and play. So I try and at least do dailies every day of that. And I've also been playing a lot of Destiny recently, mostly for the social aspect, because it's been a long time since I've had a game where I can just log on and inevitably someone that I know will be playing and I can jump in with them. That's nice to feel. I don't think I've had that experience since like my WoW days, honestly. And then I'm also, so for my streams, one of the types of streams I do is like a class stream where I play a game and talk about design stuff with my audience. And I'm going to do a series with a designer friend of mine, Mike Berghead, on just okay to kind of crappy games, like games that are 50s or 60s Metacritic level, and playing through them as a design exercise to sort of get through, you know, what everyone else considers mediocre, to find interesting design lessons in them. So in preparation for that, which is on Saturday, I've been playing Dark Sector, which is, it's pretty interesting. It's like a pretty, you know, okay, it's pretty okay third-person shooter, but it's got this like glaive mechanic. It's not actually a glaive. It's like a boomerang, but they call it a glaive in the game. That's very different than I've seen in many other games. So I've been playing that to prepare for the stream, and it's an interesting experience to play these sort of just sort of okay games that you're just like, I don't know. But then once you find something interesting about them or something new, it can be pretty fun. That's my current list of games. Also, I've been playing a ton of Ludum Dare games because that just happened. So lots of little tiny games on top of everything else.
Any picks that you can mention as being particularly interesting?
Well, I definitely want to go through and play all of the top rated ones. My friend Liz made this one, like My Little Weapon Creator, I think, where it's like you design a weapon, like a melee weapon with all sorts of add-ons and extensions, and you can put like little bows and happy, like My Little Pony style accessories onto the melee weapon and send it as like a gift. And it's really silly. It's really funny. And she actually, I think, won. She got first in theme for the jam, I believe. So that one's pretty funny. Check out. Pretty straightforward, but a lot of people had a good time with that one.
And it supposedly works on Linux.
Supposedly, I think that she just made Mac, Linux, and PC builds, but I'm not positive on that. I'd have to double check.
I'm reading that on the itch.io page for it.
Alright.
I'm super fast.
I'm downloading it.
Alrighty, so before we dive into our normal show content, we're going to have a chat with our special guest, Lisa Brown, who was your project lead on Slow Down Bull, is that right?
Yeah, I was designer and lead on that project. It was a small project for Insomniac, so it's weird because we didn't have like official titles or anything, so I'm like, well, I guess that's what I can call myself. I led the project, so therefore project lead. Yeah, that works.
Yeah, make up whatever title you want.
Yeah.
Supreme Overlord.
Right.
That's what I was gonna say.
So do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself, your background? You
Sure.
had been working with Insomniac for quite some time.
Yeah, so I'm a game designer. I was a designer with Insomniac Games for about 6 years. Worked on Resistance 3, Sunset Overdrive, and then Slow Down Bull. As of like 2 months ago, I've gone indie, so exciting adventures for that. But yeah, my background's kind of mixed. I went to school for art and computer science, and I also did a lot of theater. So spent some time working in the theater, spent some time doing web development, spent some time doing like animation side work with animator friends of mine, and eventually went to Carnegie Mellon's Entertainment Technology Center for Graduate School, which is a program that looks at entertainment fields that use technology. So games are a big part of that. And that's sort of where I figured out that game design was like the perfect unison of everything in my background. And from there, I went into the industry, straight into Insomniac, and there until just recently. But while I was there, I also did, in addition to just their stuff, I was big on participating in game jams and doing side stuff as well. So lots of different things.
Yeah, I think the first time that we touched base might have been during 70 FPS.
Yeah, it was. It was which was my first 70 FPS was the most recent one, and yeah, I got really.
Mine too.
Yes, I still feel terrible that I could not get a Linux build of my game up, but it was tricky with the instructions for getting working Linux builds in Unreal was a little bit overwhelming, and then they came out with an engine upgrade like right after I finished Verticorps, and the engine upgrade broke Verticorps, so I was like in kind of stuck in a limbo with that. Yeah, but that's where we touch base, and that's where your enthusiasm for making sure everyone's games also ran on Linux was like, oh, I should definitely keep that in mind for the future.
We forgive you. Brought a Slow Down Bull.
Yeah, that's true. I did get Slow Down Bull on Linux. That's my penance for not getting Verticorps.
So that was Insomniac's first attempt at doing anything on the desktop.
Yes.
First attempt at doing an open project, and first thing that, by extension to all of that, supports Linux. How did that project come about?
So it was a bit of a process experiment at first. We wanted to do an experiment sort of where we're like, okay, let's see if we can make a small game with a small team, small scope, that we're used to, because we usually make big console games. And we had made some smaller games for, like, we have a mobile team, and they made Outernauts on Facebook, and it was a little bit of a smaller team, but it was still a fair number of people. So we're like, let's see how far one person can take a prototype before we even need to put a team on there, and with the idea of making a very small scope game that's still fun. And so that was sort of the entry into that, and I made some prototypes, and the Bull prototype ended up being the most fun, and so just iterated on that, developed it into a bigger prototype that we play tested at the company, and we were like, this is fun, let's do this, and since the whole thing is an experiment, let's try to experiment on other fronts. So that's why we decided to do open development. We did the developer streams on it. We have a peculiar sort of pricing scheme, in that we give half of the proceeds to charity. So it was sort of like a bed for doing a bit wilder experiments for the company all across the board.
That's cool.
And what kind of reception do you think it's had so far?
So
I guess it's been a bit awkward for you.
Yeah, it's been super awkward.
At the same time.
because I went indie basically before it launched, and like I still had a relationship with Insomniac, like I contracted to finish it off, but it is a little strange that it's like out now, but now it's no longer like my game. I'm no longer involved with it, although I still like when people do Let's Plays and send me Let's Plays or videos or like send me messages about the game, it makes me super happy. And I think that so far the people who have done that sort of thing seem to enjoy it a lot. They get the whole like stress overachiever thing, because if you don't know about the game, it's a little action game about a stressed out overachiever bull who just wants to collect beautiful things but is always panicking that his bullness is going to get in the way of his greater goals. So it's all about managing stress in a way. And it's always been really fun to see people doing Let's Plays of it and like having those stressful moments and getting it and having that resonate with them. I think it's a little bit of a particular audience, because it is it's a very cute game. It has a very strange sort of schoolcrafty style. And
Very charming.
I love that.
yeah, it's super charming, and I think there's specific people who are really into that, and those people who have sought me out have been super pleased, and it's really fun to watch those guys play it. So that makes me really happy.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting. It starts off very calm. You're like, okay, I'm just gonna go collect these pieces. And then you start to ramp up the difficulty and start to get stressed out. Just like the bull.
Yes. It's the sort of game where if you can sort of play it super casually and just sort of roll through, and it can be sort of calm and nice. But if you're a perfectionist and want to get the top scores in each level, then it makes it astronomically harder, more difficult, and thus more stressful.
Yeah.
So
Definitely.
yeah, definitely that.
So how did that thematic element find its way in?
Well, it sort of evolved over time. Like the whole thing of him having like a little meter that went up every time you controlled him was very early in the prototype, and that leading to some kind of bull charge rampage. That was pretty early on, but the theme of it being stress and that being tied to him getting stressed because he was trying to do really well, it sort of evolved a little later when the rest of my team rolled on and we were thinking more about so what is actually the story of this game, and like who is this bull and what is this character, because that's something we could all relate to, I guess, is being really worried that you're never doing well enough or in art or in your whatever you're trying to do. So it sort of evolved out of the team communication, and then we rolled with it and played around with it and thought it was a pretty fun characterization, because it's a little opposite of what you expect out of a bull. That was actually a challenge we had very early on, as people were like, oh, you're a bull, you want to charge things because that's what bulls do. And it was like, well, we actually want you to do the opposite. How do we communicate that? And so we did a lot of the characterization for him. He's actually trying not to succumb to that side of him. So if you charge, he gets really disappointed afterwards, and all sorts of things like that. Try and get that across.
I really like
Yeah, I think that comes across well in the final game.
I really like the days since last rampage. I think that's pretty awesome.
Yes. That was something actually my programmer came up with. We were having a meeting and we were trying to think of like what's everything we can do to show that he is like a super overachiever. And she came up with that. She's like, what about little days since last trample beat? And we're like, that's amazing. We have to put that in somehow. So props to Lily and Yoho for coming up with that idea, because it was fantastic.
And how many people were working on the game all up?
It was 5, not all at once, but a total of 5. So there was me as designer and project lead. Dave Cumbo did sort of the art direction, and Danae Wachowski did a lot of the animations and cleanup art. Lillian Yoho was the programmer, and Alex Previty was sound and music. But in addition, like since we were doing it in the context of Insomniac, we got a lot of help from various people all over Insomniac. They're the designers there to do playtests with and help give feedback on things, and QA, we got some QA help through Insomniac as well. So even though the core team was 5 people, we still took advantage of a lot of the resources that we got from doing it in a bigger studio.
It seems like that would be an interesting sort of like internal team building thing as well? Like everybody feeling like can give feedback on and pitch in a little bit.
Yeah, the people in the company were definitely super supportive of the project the whole way around. So that was really cool.
So was there anything... How did the partnership with Starlight Children's Foundation come about?
Well, Starlight's been a charity that Insomniac has supported for a really, really long time. They so every time we do anything charity related, we usually do it with Starlight. So if you don't know about it, Starlight Children's Foundation is a charity which seeks to provide games and toys for kids who are in hospitals for extended stays, either with terminal illness or just really big complications. That means they have to stay in the hospital for super long periods of time. And several Insomniac employees had situations where, with their kids, where Starlight Foundation helped them, and so we sort of kind of fell in love with that charity and knew we always try and do stuff with them. And when we were thinking about how to sell this game and how a lot of the whole project was about sort of giving back, especially with the developer streams and the open dev and showing our fans like how game development works behind the curtains and all that stuff. So we were like, oh, that's sort of like a running theme. Maybe we should do something where, buying the game raises money for them, because, it is a bit of an experimental project for us. And so we wanted to try and do as many like different things with it as we could.
Yeah, I also like in the loading screens how there's quotes from the Starlight Children's.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah, that was sort of the thing, is like, okay, how can we like integrate this with the game? So we thought of putting the little snippets of information in there and all throughout the game.
How did you go about getting that? Where did the idea to incorporate those into the game come?
Well, we knew we wanted to do something more than just like give money. We wanted to integrate it with the game somehow. And so just talking with them, it was pretty late in production when we finally like solidified that we were actually going to do it. So we knew we couldn't like do like drastic changes to the game. So it was like, well, we have all these loading screens you always go through, so it'd be cool if we put information in there and just had like just little bits of information, little bits of links that Starlight would provide to us that we could put in. And so that was sort of the best way that we figured out how to do it with what we had at the time.
Yeah, nice. It kind of does. It does sort of bring this other character to the game that's not there, because I don't think that was in the early version that I tested. And then to see that in
which one?
Having those quotes.
Oh, the Starlight stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah. That was definitely after you tested it for sure.
Yeah, so to see those in the final game was kind of a nice surprise.
Nice.
And as far as being a sort of openly developed project, how did that go down? What sort of experience were you expecting to have there, and how did it turn out in the end?
I really wasn't sure what to expect at all. Like, I know other devs had done like the streaming, and I really liked the philosophy behind it, which was a sort of demystification of the game development process. And so I was pretty passionate about that. I really had no idea what kind of reception it would get. One of my fears was that people would see that Insomniac was doing dev streaming and expect to see like Sunset Overdrive or Ratchet or something and get disappointed. But I think we set it up, the expectations pretty clearly. It was like, no, we're making this other little game and it's very small, and like here's the process. So most people our stream, like, we had some regulars who would come back every time, and a lot of people would message me and thank us for doing it, because a lot of them were not necessarily aspiring game developers, but sometimes just gamers who were curious about the process and really insightful for them. So that was super important to me, and that's sort of the reason that since having gone indie, I'm focusing a lot on doing developer streams and more of that, because it was really positive experience for me and for the whole team.
Yeah, I was going to ask if that ended up inspiring the direction that you went afterwards.
Definitely.
So that's cool.
Like, I need to do more of this because it's fun.
That's pretty cool.
And so do you find, what kind of audience do you think, or what kind of makeup do you have as far as your audience go, whether it's people who are gamers and have some vague interest in better understanding the things that they're playing versus people who are aspiring to be game developers, or people who may be game developers and are looking for new angles to look at things from?
It's kind of a balance of all three of those things. There's definitely people who come who are getting into game development themselves, or students and want to learn. A lot of people are just I work sometimes with Will Manda Games, who they're a husband and wife Let's Play team that does Let's Plays a lot. Sometimes I will guest on their Let's Plays, and found that a lot of times people in their audience would be interested to, and that's sort of the audience that these people aren't aspiring game developers. They just love games and they're just curious. So a lot of times people from there would come and check out my streams and then end up becoming regulars in my streams as well. So it's kind of a mixed bag. And then sometimes just other developers will show up because, they think it's interesting to see the work process of other people, or want to hear cool stories, or whatever. I think the most exciting one to me is the people who play games but don't know anything about making them, who are just super curious, because I think they get the most excited by the things that they see, in my observation.
I think generally those are the people who are most overlooked so far as this kind of content goes.
Mm-hmm.
And then, the kind of stuff that you put out there, if that ends up being inspiring and they end up deciding to be creative and try making something themselves, that's the biggest win you can think of.
Yeah, that's like the best, basically.
Yeah, and that stuff's all new to many people, so exciting.
Yeah, I feel like we're going through this process of like you said, like the demystification of game development is something that enough people are excited about that I think we're going to have some shifts in perspectives over the next couple of, maybe 5 to 10 years, just within gaming culture.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah, I think it can only do well. I mean, you kind of saw that with movies, right? Like, there were always like some people who were movie enthusiasts and wanting to know like how movies worked, but it was like Lord of the Rings, when they started releasing the big behind the scenes things on the DVDs, that's sort of when it sort of shifted to being a mainstream thing, where people were suddenly really interested in how these things were made, and it kind of made a jump from being something very narrow to something that like a lot of mainstream moviegoers started being curious about and started enjoying. And it'd be really cool to see that if that happened with games as well.
Yeah, I know. It sounds bad on the surface, but I kind of look forward to the day when games are a little bit like photography, where everyone does their own thing and everyone feels comfortable just messing around. There are still people who do things professionally and still things, technique and a craft to learn, but having something that's accessible on that kind of level would be really, really awesome.
Yeah, for sure.
So, you've left Insomniac and now you are self-funding on Patreon. That's generally how things are working at the moment.
Yes, so I've gone completely indie. I'm spending some time making small, weird, somewhat experimental, somewhat personal games for a while. And during that process, I wanted to do the streaming. So I set up a Patreon for my streams, which are developer streams, so me making the game. Also what I'm calling like class streams, which are me playing other games and discussing them from a design perspective and sort of engaging my stream audience in those discussions. Those involve giving homework, which started out as a joke, but then people actually did the homework. So I was like, well, I guess this is a thing now. And other things like visiting with other developers and, helping give design feedback, helping solve problems, just that sort of thing. So Patreon is a big help for being able to continue to do that. I'm also doing some like contract work on the side that is interesting or cool and doesn't take up too much time from doing my own stuff. So that's sort of what I'm doing right now. It's a huge adventure, but it's been really fun. I'm getting to the point where I'm finally figuring out, okay, what's like my stream format. I need to figure out all these things and get it consistent and try and figure out a consistent schedule, which is really hard because I have special guests on all my streams. So I have friends who work in the industry. Every stream I try to have one of them on as a guest so that they can, give some of their perspective and knowledge as well. So it means I have to work around a bunch of people's schedules, so I haven't nailed something consistent. But I do stream at least once a week, sometimes twice a week, usually either in the middle of the week in the evenings Pacific time or on the weekends more in the afternoon to try. So because I know for Europe, so that Europe can watch too.
Nice.
Yeah, so it's been, and I've done a ton of writing, I've done a ton of speaking engagements already. So I'm just like having a super indie adventure right now, at least for the next several months to see what happens. I'm working on 3 games at the same time, which I don't know if I would recommend that. That's a bit of a like system purge, I think. But no, it's been
You've
great.
got to at least work on 2 at once.
I've got this lightning bug game that's all about catching lightning bugs, and it's really, really ambient, beautiful, and it's like super, super simple. Just you go around, you catch lightning bugs, and if you catch special ones, you'll get a little like Lisa insight or Lisa story bit as you go, but it's super, super chill and ambient and a little bit meditative. And then I'm working on this other game that I did for AI Jam called Cat Trick, where you dangle a feather toy in front of a cat to try and get it to jump and try and get it to do flips and wall rebounds and stuff, and you get accumulated trick points and stuff for getting the cat to jump around, which I made that for AI Jam, and it was really fun, and I'm trying it out with a touch interface. Seems to be super fun, so that's the other one I'm making. And then the third thing is just like a silly eye tracker game that I'm hacking around with in Unreal. So
Yay.
lots of games, lots of projects, and I try and stream myself working on those. The most recent one I did was on my Lightning Bug game. I was working with my composer to sort of figure out what the music was going to be like. So we had a little jam session, and I streamed that of us going back and forth and figuring out the music and him starting the composition process. So if anyone's interested in like the music side of things, you should check out that stream because it's pretty cool to look in on if you've never seen that process before.
It's also because I've had the opportunity to do that a couple of times with some of the composers I've worked with, and it's really exciting to be able to kind of just bounce some ideas around and then see an artist bring something to life in a medium that I just don't have the personal skills to do something at that level with. It's always so inspiring.
Yeah, that's always the most exciting part of working on teams for me, is that moment when like they get really into the game and they totally have a vision that was something you never imagined but is amazing. I love that.
Right. Yeah, it's great. One of the games I'm working on at the moment, music is a really big part of it, and so it's mostly text based and text and audio, and so music is like a huge part of setting the tone, a huge part of setting the atmosphere and stuff. And to be able to work with the composer that I've got on board for that, and to see his takes on the environments that we're trying to set up, it's it kind of like that informs me as a writer, and I can come back and try and tweak things to match what he's doing, or vice versa. Some of the writing ends up inspiring him. And stuff. It's been really cool.
Oh, it's such a good process. And then when like your artist and your musicians start getting a loop going, and you're just sort of watching that happen, that's also super cool.
It's like a jam, like
yeah.
I'm more of an amateur musician, and when I get a couple of other people who can play, like when you get together, you've got this synergy going on. It's fantastic. But yeah, so the games that you're working on, are we likely to see Linux support for those?
I will try my hardest for sure. Hooray. The cat game, I'm looking at putting it on mobile, so that's not really relevant. But the Lightning Bug game for sure. I don't think it's doing anything that would make it particularly difficult to get over onto Linux, but I'll definitely give it a try, and I'll just have Cheese test it. You're my new Linux tester. I do have a Linux box. I could test it myself.
Hooray!
But definitely that.
I think the Unreal workflow for deploying Linux stuff is getting a little bit smoother, a little bit easier now.
Yeah, that'll be the tricky one, but that game is sort of like a festival game anyway. It's not really a game that you would sort of download and play by yourself. It's more of this is an event. This is like an installation setting where you would play it at a festival or something. But I'll be making more games in addition to those, and I'm definitely gonna try, and I will definitely try and keep the Linux community in mind when I make those.
Awesome. Well, I get the feeling that we're running out of time, so we'll let you go. Was there anything else that you wanted to touch on before we disappear?
I don't think so. Except thanks for having me on. And if anyone is interested in my dev streams and checking those out, you can. I'm wertle on Twitter and I'm wertle on Twitch, and that's where you can go to look into those. And I also have a YouTube channel with all the streams archived if you want to check them out and see if that's sort of a thing that you would be interested in. But if you want to keep base on my adventures, then definitely follow me on Twitter. And yeah, touch.
Thanks for joining us.
Brilliant.
Thanks so much, you guys.
It's been a pleasure.
Okay, I'm gonna see you later.
Bye.
Awesome. Have fun.
See you.
Bye bye.
Exciting.
So, moving on to our past events since our last cast. We've had Team Fortress 2, Guns of Icarus Online, Left 4 Dead 2, and Crypt of the Necrodancer.
Did you guys manage to make many of those?
All of them. I did.
Oh, nice. I think that Necrodancer one was the only one I made. So how did TF2 go?
Yeah, so Team Fortress 2. That was right after the cast, so we had a lot of people, and that always has a big turnout, considering it's free to play. So that was pretty fun. We had a full server going for quite a while.
Nice.
Then Guns of Icarus, I was able to stick around for a couple games. I streamed them. They didn't go too well, but it was still fun.
Is that archived?
Yeah, that's on my hitbox.
Sweet, we'll check that out.
Then the Left 4 Dead 2 event.
Yeah, I've been at the Left 4 Dead 2 event, but the versus game was full, I guess.
Yeah, we had 2 games going.
And then, yeah, one was the normal campaign, and the other one was the versus mode.
Oh, nice. So a decent amount of people then.
Yeah.
Over time.
I'm still impressed how smooth this game runs on Linux.
So Corbin, you were playing in the co-op campaign, correct?
Yeah. Trying to make some achievements.
Right. So we also had a full game of versus going on. And that went pretty well. It was a good mix of people who are a little more experienced and a little less experienced, so that was fun.
Yeah, I think after we finished the normal campaign, there was space on the versus mode, and we joined for the versus mode, and Beans was there too, if I remember correctly. Yeah, playing the Infected is a little bit practice.
Yeah, it's different. You have to approach everything differently.
Yeah, the movements, the controls are a little bit different, and you have to talk to each other for coordinating the attacks. But it was a lot of fun.
And Crypt of the Necrodancer was a single-player event. First of those that we've done in quite some time. You weren't able to make it, Corbin, but I think you were still downloading the game, is that right?
Oh, I finished downloading and started to do the tutorial. And I also started my stream and watched your stream, and especially Nemoda's stream, as he was streaming 3 streams at
as
once.
well as his own.
But
his own, and then...
Yeah.
Just pretend that he was playing all of them.
So...
multitasking par excellence.
Yeah, so I know a lot of people followed along on Nemoda's stream, so they were able to see 3 people playing the same seed at the same time.
Yeah, and the idea was that we picked the same seed so that everyone would be playing the same generated dungeon, and we'd sort of compare our best scores after an hour or so, I think it was.
Yeah, next time I'll jump in and have a look. I compete with your scores.
I hope that we're able to do more of the single player type stuff, because it's kind of a nice way to make a sort of less directly competitive stuff, to bring a bit of attention to that and give people who are into those sorts of things more of a chance to do that socially.
Especially being able to watch the streams of all of them at once. That's also cool.
Yeah, it was good that we got something set up yeah, looking forward to seeing how we can grow that over time. So for anybody who'd like to, try that dungeon themselves, it's SteamLUG 01 was the seed that we were using. And I think nobody made it past Zone 2. Even though it was this kind of really friendly, really, it gave you a lot of stuff, that seed, in the first zone. I think we were sort of pushing 4 damage by the end of the second level or something. Crazy. So as far as upcoming events go, after the cast, we're going to be playing some Altitude.
Bye.
And tomorrow we've got Nuclear Dawn. The following weekend, Sanctum 2 again. And on the 23rd, we have Magicite, which should be fun.
Elsewhere in the community, Cheese, you've
Hooray!
wrote an article.
Yeah. So Broken Age was released, which I think might have been touched on last cast. And a lot of people were sort of asking if I was going to write about it, and I haven't really sort of framed my thoughts on the game, but and I didn't really feel like a proper review would be appropriate. So instead I sat down with another person who's deeply involved in the community, and we did this kind of interview or chat about our rationales for getting behind the game and how that led to us being involved in the community. And that kind of came out as this kind of interesting conversation thing, or a thing that might be interesting to people to see what motivated us to become people who didn't know anything about Double Fine to people who are now, volunteer forum moderators and stuff.
Interesting.
And also on that front, Norbert published a proper review of the game as well that people can check out. So that's cool. Have you guys played the game at all?
Not yet.
I've dabbled a little bit, but I do not own the game, so...
It's all good.
It's on my to-play list.
And there's been a bit more work on the SteamLUG website that's been going on. People can follow that on GitHub if they're interested. And work in progress stuff can usually be found on the staging website. I don't think any of the current development is currently exposed yet, but I'm sure that some of those new features will be making their way on there soon.
Sometimes that stuff is to help admins along, and not so visible to the outside, but there's definitely a lot of work being done and plans to improve the site even more, make it an even better hub for everything SteamLUG.
I've been talking about the idea of bringing out the we're talking about bringing maybe badges to the website, and maybe some RSVP functionality for events and stuff, so that anybody who wants to track that kind of thing for themselves and their own profiles can do so, and start to bring that kind of community type features into the website, as well as having the separate stuff on or stuff that goes beyond what the Steam community hub provides.
Yeah, have a little more involvement.
That stuff will be cool when it's up there. Back on the Broken Age front, we're playing Broken Age for Game Club at the moment, which is a bit of fun. We've got a bunch of developers coming in to chat about the game and their perspectives on working on it, and people are also discussing what they do and don't like about the game as we play through. We're on our second session tomorrow, I think. Second of 4. And kind of still hoping that we're going to get Tim to drop in at some point. Weekends are difficult for him, so not sure whether or not we're going to be able to wrangle that, but fingers crossed he's trying to make it happen.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah. And after that, Game Club's going to go on a bit of a hiatus, so for anybody who is excited to check it out, now's the time to drop in. So moving on to Steam and Valve news. There's been a recent update to the Steam beta client, which means that the UI is no longer locked when performing a cache validation.
Which
is
such a small thing that could have been fixed 10 years ago.
Everybody knows the annoying sound if you click somewhere else in the client.
Ding-ding-ding.
Ding ding.
And it looks like they've also fixed a bug with the Steam Web Helper having CPU spikes. I don't know if that counts for Linux as well, but I had seen some Linux users recently complaining of that. So fingers crossed that that's going to help us as well.
Another thing they fixed is when you print your receipt,
It's no longer black.
it went into a black page. Yeah. I recently activated some keys from, I guess, Humble Bundle or Humble Store and just printed them. And later, after I read that announcement that this has been fixed, I had a look and the pages have all been black.
And I don't... It's probably happened well outside the last fortnight, but there were some weird quirks that the embedded browser was having on the Steam client where backspace and stuff wouldn't work. But I think it's since been updated and that problem has gone away as well. I don't know which update that was in, so we won't link to that changelog. Something I spotted recently was a Gamer Sutra article on Steam Greenlight, which is kind of interesting. But what I spotted was a response to it by a developer who talked about their own perspectives on what Greenlight is. And rather than seeing it as a place where users can go and find games that they're might be interested in, or buying games that they might buy or whatever, this developer sees it more as a proving ground for a game to show that it has the critical mass to be able to perform on Steam. So it's a tool for developers rather than something that the community is necessarily expected to go in and dig through every single game and vote for everything. It's about whether or not you as a developer can attract the community needed to vote up your game. And I thought that was a really nice insight that a lot of people don't quite grasp. Like, lots of people go, oh, how do I find games on Greenlight? Well, it's not that you find games on Greenlight, it's that games you care about are on Greenlight and you go to them because you already know about them. You guys have thoughts on that?
I think that shows my usage of Greenlight, which would be, hey, this game that I like isn't on Steam yet. Does it have a Greenlight page?
Yeah. But yeah, I think the article, might have been framed more around talking about how the things have, the bits and pieces have changed in Greenlight over time and how that stuff's been working. There might have been a look at discoverability and stuff. I remember more about this this developer who's shared their own opinion on it more than I do from the article. But yeah, so I thought that was something interesting to consider. And it's kind of like anybody who goes into Steam or anybody who goes into Greenlight or anybody who does anything expecting that just arriving on a platform is a free ticket to getting noticed and getting success. It's like everything takes work, and being good at marketing is now a requirement for a game developer. Being able to attract and build a community.
So moving on to tech news. We've had our first look at the consumer version of the Oculus Rift, which will be shipping in Q1 of 2016.
I like that the first look is nothing more than a look. There are no specifications listed there, there's just a couple of pictures and a date.
Yeah, it just shows how they decided to design the hardware, basically.
It looks almost like it might have a hinge there, and I'm wondering whether or not they've tried to solve that problem that I think the Rift has, in that if you got to get it off quickly, it's a pain in the backside. There's also that slider on the bottom. I don't know what that's for.
And maybe that HTC Valve Steam VR announcement pushed them a little bit to announce a kind of release date or when they want to start shipping.
I do kind of get the feeling that that the HTC's presence has pushed Facebook or Oculus along a little bit faster than they were expecting to go.
I'd agree with that. When the announcement of the Vive coming out this year, I think that was quite surprising to many people.
Which kind of segues nicely into the next thing, which is that Oculus have also released the recommended system specifications for the consumer version of the Rift, which contains good news and bad news.
Namely?
Well, we've got some specs, we've got some idea of the kind of hardware that they're expecting or will be required to have a decent amount of performance with the sort of things that they're trying to do. The downside is that they've announced only Windows specifications. And then in a slightly later blog post, they've talked about how, in the interests of creating a better Windows experience in the short period of time that they have remaining before the consumer release, they are putting Mac and Linux development on hold.
Sad face.
So,
At least they don't forget Linux.
So, not content with leaving us lagging significantly behind in the SDK department, they're now just kind of totally abandoning us until well after release by the looks of things. Whoops.
Which means we all get to buy Valve's product, hooray!
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how and where things go from here. I know that the Rift won't be a platform that I'll be focusing on much myself.
Did the Revive HMD already have some system specs, especially for Linux?
I don't think I've spotted anything, so I'm not sure. But on the HTC and Valve note, recently Alchemy Labs, they're the people who made Jump Simulator, or I think they're making Job Simulator still. Discourse, for the Awesome, and so on. They do a bunch of VR stuff, and they organized a room scale VR jam in Austin recently, and there's some neat stuff coming out of that. People playing around with the Vive, obviously, and one of the things that Alchemy Labs chief scientist Alex Schwartz was saying was that he can juggle using the Vive, which I think talks a little bit about the responsiveness of not just the visual component, like the head-mount display, but also of the motion tracking in the controllers as well.
Yeah, and the accuracy of it. It's an impressive feat. I can't even do that in real life.
He said it was accurate enough that he felt that it could be used to teach people juggling, virtually before they move on to using real balls, which is an interesting thing. You can show a lot more real-time feedback to people in a virtual space than you can in the real world. So the opportunities for accelerated learning there seem like they could be interesting and worth pursuing.
Better to raise a clone army with.
So yeah, for anybody who's interested in checking out some of the bits and pieces that happened at that game jam, I don't know of any Linux-friendly stuff that was happening specifically there. I think people were more focusing on just making stuff and experimenting. But it's still interesting to see what people are doing. Because it looks like the Vive is probably going to arrive here before before the Rift does.
The price will be interesting.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see the shape of everything once the dust settles, sort of mid next year. When there are a few things that are considered to be consumer ready on the market and a few games around that people can start to use as a benchmark for performance and stuff. Well, I guess it's more than performance, it's experience, I guess,
So, Valve has released update 159 of SteamOS. So...
Nice. That's mostly driver updates and stuff, is it?
Yeah, I know for sure it has
It is.
a newer version of the NVIDIA drivers, which means that if you have a driver that requires, or a card that requires a legacy driver, then this will no longer work for you.
Oh. Well, that's an interesting move.
Yeah, but that are already old cards.
So if you're affected by that on any other distribution, then you have to worry about that now with the latest version of SteamOS.
Yeah. I wonder whether we'll see people packaging alternative or older driver sets for SteamOS as things move forward.
I'm certain that it can't be too difficult.
People might already be doing so. I haven't been paying attention.
To use the legacy drivers?
Yeah. I mean, this is about what's pre-installed.
Right, exactly.
One positive thing about this is that the Steam machines vendors can't ship old
Yes,
cards.
definitely. As if they would ship 10-year-old cards.
Yeah, I was gonna say, that stuff's not being manufactured anymore. Dear. So, AMD are doing stuff.
Yeah, they were talking about future CPU architecture? Or is this a new generation that they call Zen, with greater performance and lesser cost?
This is for CPUs rather than GPUs, I guess? Or is it GPUs that we're looking at benefiting from this approach as well?
Actually, they want to... Looks like they want to be able to compete with the higher performance options that Intel provides, where currently they do not. So this is the purpose of their Zen design, which is a high-performance x86 architecture.
Sweet. Well, be interesting to see how that impacts on the market when this stuff becomes available. Gonna guess that it's probably gonna be late this year, early next year at the earliest before we see something. I haven't seen any mention of timeframes in the article. Yeah, David is saying next year.
Yeah, Crytek updated their Euler document, which is now containing the details for the Linux version of their Cry engine.
Yeah.
And just a day before, we had hints on SteamDB that Evolve now got their Linux OS entry. Even though Evolve was... We know that Evolve will come to Linux since their big announcements, but we haven't seen any progress on that yet.
So is there an actual depot in SteamDB? I haven't looked yet.
At least the OS list has been updated, and there are now launchers for Mac and for Linux.
There are Mac and Linux depots.
Yeah, okay.
I'm looking forward to play that game on Linux natively.
Then we'll be able to join you.
Well, 4 people will be able to join him.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's unclear from the wording of the EULA update announcement whether or not this is going to come to, because the EULA is specifically about CryEngine's software as a service platform. It's unclear whether or not the changes will hit the I don't know what they call it, but whatever their other kind of full release where you have everything paid for and it's yours, as opposed to having it framed in a software as a service type model. Yeah, it's unclear whether or not it's going to be making its way there, but either way, for any developers who are using CryEngine, now's the time to start planning out Linux ports and stuff.
So,
and thinking about whether or not there are other platforms they're going to be targeting.
They seem to indicate that the next big release will have Linux support for the games, but not yet for the editor. Some people were asking that on Twitter, and they confirmed that the editor will only have Windows support for now.
Yeah, the announcement said that too.
Yeah, the game launcher is for Linux.
But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what kind of impact this has. I got confirmation that this is all going to land in a 3.x release, rather than having to wait for a 4.x release. So that means that people on a 3.x branch who are willing to move up have that opportunity, which generally you'd assume would be a little bit less work than moving up a major version. So that's positive as well.
Other CryEngine games that have been said to be coming to Linux include Star Citizen
Hmm.
and the new Homefront game, as well as Snow.
I haven't seen any word on the Star Citizen front. It's unclear whether or not last time Chris talked about CryEngine's work on the renderer, whether he was saying that there's no renderer available yet, or whether he was saying that the renderer that they have isn't ready yet. So the situation for Star Citizen may or may not be unchanged. It's going to be interesting to see how that plans out. But I think Kingdom Come Deliverance as well, was that another one? Did you already mention that?
No? And yeah, that sounds about right.
And Homefront, the Revolution, I think it is.
Didn't I say Homefront?
Did you? Oh.
You did.
That's alright. Dorito was all Homefront. Like, right, Homefront then. But yes, Homefront. And is that a Crytek IP? I don't know much about the game.
It was, but there's a different developer working on it now. It was sold to someone else.
Ah, okay.
There is still a team working on it.
Dambuster Studios, apparently.
Published by Deep Silver.
So Nvidia have released a new driver version in their long-lived branch release series.
So, for those of you who don't like updating very frequently, now is the time.
Yeah, but the beta drivers they put out are quite well and support newer features. So it's not bad to go with the beta drivers at all.
So it doesn't look like there are major changes in the changelog, but it's nice to have another stable release. Moving on to gaming news, Rockets has left Steam Early Access.
Yeah, so this is a sort of a couch game, play with your friends, plug in a few controllers. It's really simple. You fly a rocket around and try to take out all the other rockets, by firing your own rockets. So, it's really simple, but it's really fun, and it's nice to see that it is considered stable now. The developers have plans to add more updates, more features in the future, but it's a fun game as it is.
Something that someone popped in here was Star Wars Battlecry, which is an Unreal 4 engine recreation, I guess, of Star Wars Battlefront.
So the idea here is that the new Star Wars Battlefront that's coming out this year will probably not be coming to Linux. So why not have our own?
It's going to be interesting to see how this fares from a legal perspective, whether or not people are going to go after this community project or fan project.
It wouldn't be the first fan-made Star Wars game.
No, but looking at their screenshots and stuff, it looks like they've got they've made a little bit of progress.
So the Uber Entertainment devs have reached out to Linux users to report Linux-specific planetary annihilation bugs.
Yeah, it sounds like they're gonna they're keen to put some effort into polishing up the Linux experience, and they're reaching out to the community and asking us to help make sure that nothing slips through the cracks. That's really cool.
Yeah, it's always nice to see the focus on keeping it supported.
For sure.
Yeah, the GOG.com Galaxy client has left alpha status and now is in public beta. Everybody is able to sign up. And they stated on their page that at the moment it's available for macOS and Windows. And for Linux it will be available soon. So let's hope that will be really soon. But in their FAQ they state that the client is planned, but they don't have any expected release date right now.
I've been messing around a little bit with the beta client, and it's interesting. The thing that is most apparent to me immediately is that GOG's content distribution network is not quite as strong as Steam's is. Certainly not as present near where I live. So download speeds are quite slow by comparison for me.
Mm.
But it seems pretty neat. The social features kind of feel like they're a bit lacking. It's very difficult to find someone if you want to add them to your friends list. You've got to find like a forum post or something that they've made so that you can click on them and add them. Which is not really all that helpful if there's someone who's new and you want to like get them on your friends list and talk them through everything.
Yeah, but that will be improved, I guess.
Oh, I hope so, yeah.
They have a thread where you can post your enhancements and suggest some new features.
Yeah. The other thing I haven't been able to find is the ability to add existing games that are on your machine that aren't GOG games, just like custom launches and stuff for other games that you have installed.
Mhm.
So I hope that finds its way in there as well.
One interesting thing about the client will be the crossplay, where you will be able to play your games you have purchased on GOG and play it with your friends on Steam. I'm interested in how that works out.
So I guess it would just be that the games would ship with the Steamworks library and everything installed, or everything enabled in the build. So if Steam is running, it should just hook up.
Just back on the Crytek thing for a moment, very brief moment. It's really interesting to see Crytek people now tweeting or actively talking about Linux projects. There's Crytek's brand manager talking about Umbra, which is a crowdfunding project that's running at the moment, which just announced that it's going to be having Linux support.
Cool.
Within the past hour, I think. So I know nothing about it. I can't talk to it, but it's kind of interesting to see that Crytek themselves are pushing the Linux angle, or pushing projects that are announcing that they're supporting Linux. But also on the note of GOG, Star Trek games now are available for Linux.
Yay! The good old Star Trek games like 25th Anniversary and Judgment Rights. Have you played them?
No, I've only played a couple of next-gen games. So it's a little bit older than my Star Trek gaming experience. But I know people who are fans who are very, very happy to see these published on Linux.
Yeah, I played the 25th Anniversary, completed it, and one interesting thing about the missions is at the end you will be evaluated how you performed, and I think I never got 100% on all of them. 95 to 99%, but to get 100%, it's not so easy. It's a very good adventure.
Yeah, I know it's the people who do like it seem to talk about it as though it's very, very awesome. So I'm looking forward to checking it out at some point.
Yeah, they have the complete flair of the series, of the TV shows.
There we go. Hero just makes us feel old.
Yes.
Hero mentions that these games were out before he was born.
Though only slightly.
Which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. People are born every day. You don't have to take it personally.
Yeah, and the Goat Simulator got an update.
Yeah.
The first DLC, which you have to pay for. The MMO was for free for everybody. And now we have a zombie add-on called Goat Z. Or something like that pronounced, I don't know.
Goat Z, Goat Z, it's all cool.
I guess.
So,
As long as you don't say Goatse.
their release trailer is hilarious. Just, it makes so much fun of the current trend of zombie survival games, and it's pretty hilarious. I almost feel like I should pick it up just for the trailer.
I think the funniest part of all this for me is the reaction on social media where people are going, "Ugh, why are you doing the zombie stuff? It's so overdone." It's like, yeah, that's why. That's why it's doing. That's why this exists. Is because it's you're massively popular and overdone at the moment. That's the whole point.
Yeah, just one big parody, and it looks pretty awesome. It's just so funny to me.
I haven't played it yet, but seen some Let's Plays of it. And it's like the modern survival horror games where you have to eat all the time or you will die.
There's crafting, there's zombies everywhere, ridiculous physics. All the stuff you would expect from a Goat Simulator DLC.
Clay. Is it Clay Entertainment? I think it's Clay Entertainment. Have released Invisible Ink. That's their stealth-oriented, turn-based strategy. It's out of early access and available for people to play. Have either of you two had a chance to check that out?
Yeah, I messed around with it a little bit. It's really interesting. Not very many stealth games exist that are turn-based.
Yeah, it's got a lot about it that feels unique, and a lot about it that feels very deliberate, design choice-wise. Very specifically, often in turn-based games, there's something that allows the player to be very much in control of the situation. And it's about getting the player to extend beyond a safe zone kind of thing. So when you play XCOM, usually where you start, you've got good visibility from there, you can find some cover very quickly, and then it's all about how you choose to or choose not to overextend yourself as you explore the region and try and find out where your enemies are. Invisible Ink, on the other hand, never lets you have a safe space. You start on the map, and you've got to find where the exit is. You've got to find where your objectives are, and you've got to get out. And everything is framed as though you're weak and you're out of control. To make sure that you can't just sit and watch and wait until the time is right. There's this countdown timer that shows that you're being detected, and every time it goes up a level, there might be more guards, or hacking might take more resources and stuff.
Yeah, so you can't take your time. You can't just hide in the shadows.
Right. There's stuff that specifically forces you out.
There's also, between missions, there's sort of a XCOM-like choice of where you're going to go. And you need to have enough power to actually get there. So you're constantly trying to balance all your resources so you can continue fighting.
Yeah, it's funny. We're going to mention Satellite Rain a little bit later, but in some respects, from that kind of between mission map screen, and where you buy upgrades for your agents and outfit them with new gear and stuff, I kind of feel like I get more of a Syndicate vibe from Invisible Ink than I do from Satellite Rain in that regard.
Interesting.
Which is really interesting. The other thing I really like about Invisible Ink is that it takes place over this really, really short time frame. So the game happens over 72 hours, and you can play as many missions as you can cram in there, along with the travel time to get to each location. So as you were saying, you gotta keep in mind when you're traveling. Do you go to Asia, which might take 7 hours, or do you stay in Europe and go to somewhere that's 2 hours away, but may not give you as great a return on your or might not have as great a rewards for completing.
Or choosing a mission that'll give you more missions and nothing else.
Yeah. And then sometimes, the only course of action, or the best course of action in some missions, is to just bail. You can't achieve your objectives with the gear that you have, or you've messed up somehow, or the random number generator just really, really hates you. And sometimes you just got to know when to bail. I like that it frames victory as something that's rare. Something that, you take your half victory and you run away to find another day, rather than, try and have a perfect run every time.
Right.
But in contrast to Invisible Ink, which, as we said, takes place over a very short period of time, Massive Chalice has a release date now, which is June the 1st, 2 weeks away. Just over 2 weeks away. 3 weeks away, maybe? Something? In that region? A massive chalice takes place over 300 years, and between missions it's all about managing bloodlines, and you kind of usually only get to take an individual person on 2, maybe 3 missions before they die of old age. And so it's all about getting their heirs and their ancestors into battle, and sort of growing their traits and the relics that get passed down from generation to generation and stuff.
Yeah. Choosing your partners to give you the best children.
Yeah. And so that one's not really specifically stealth oriented. It's more like XCOM, I guess, in terms of being a squad of different classes that you can take along, which are evenly matched, or somewhere closer to being evenly matched against your opponents. And the objectives are to kill all the enemies rather than avoid all the enemies. But it's a neat game. I'm looking forward to seeing the final pass that it gets over the next few weeks, and looking forward to seeing it out there. Also happening, Screwy Lightbulb have released an update on the status of Act 2 of Maker's Eden. We had the developers as a guest for a very early episode in Season 1. I think they were our first guests on the show. So it's kind of nice to see them continuing on with the work that they're doing and see where that's going, where that's up to.
So Civilization Beyond Earth had their winter patch available on Linux now.
Hooray!
There's a little bit of a delay, but all is well.
It's kind of sad that it gets out of sync upstream, and it means that we can't play with Windows users until that's sorted, but it's really good to see that it's here now.
Yeah, that's an unfortunate part of outsourced porting.
External porting, yeah. So yeah, the update includes a whole bunch of changes, balancing passes and fixes, and a couple new features here and there. I have heard word that the My2K functionality, which is allowing crossovers and connectivity with other games, I'm not really familiar with that service, but I had heard word that it might not be working properly on Linux. But I'm sure that'll be fixed soon enough. Also happening, SteamLUG Cactus has had 2 notable updates within the last fortnight. Update 16 brings an pass to all of the non-boss white box levels, so every you can get right to the final boss before you see what the developers call a white box texture, which is this sort of white or grey placeholder texture. So the whole game you can play through from beginning to more or less the end without seeing. I mean, there's still some art that's going to be improved, but certainly nothing that's placeholder to the extent that it was. So it's kind of nice to see that you'll be able to see the game as a whole like that. And then the second update 16.5, brings a bunch of new enemy textures, making them look a lot more detailed and a lot more intricate. You recently picked up Cactus Hero. What do you think of it?
It's pretty fun. When it was done downloading, I played through a whole bunch of levels really quick. Just couldn't put it down.
It works at that level, I think. Like the first levels, like the difficulty curve is accessible, so that you can play that way, and the gameplay is enjoyable enough that you just you sit with it until you get somewhere where you're stuck.
I never actually got stuck.
Have you tried?
I just
Oh yeah.
I had to go. So I'm
Nice.
Played through a bunch of stuff and like tried a few of the different androids.
I really like the way that the gameplay is distinct between the characters.
Yeah, and the other thing that's cool, which I didn't really realize before, is how personalized the text is when you talk to a boss before the battle, depending on which character you're playing as.
Yep. So it kind of reveals a bit more backstory and a bit more of the plot as you go when you play through all the different characters.
Yeah, it's a huge insight into what's happening in the game.
Yeah. I don't know how far away the game is from release. I think it's still got a bit of a while before it's going to be ready, but it's really cool to see the level of polish that it's getting.
Yeah, I follow the developers on Twitter and see the screenshots whenever they do these art pass updates, and that's pretty cool.
So you mentioned earlier that we mentioned Satellite Rain earlier, and its Linux builds have been updated to the 0.6 update, which I think landed last week. So it's a little bit of a delay in getting the Linux builds up there. But it adds a bunch of new stuff. And I got to sit down and spend some time playing it recently. And it's got the Syndicate aesthetic, I guess, and the tone and the atmosphere. But the open world gameplay, it kind of gives me the sort of vibe that I had from playing, say, Grand Theft Auto 2, for example, where you've got this big open city and lots of different factions who have faction-specific missions depending upon what region you're in and that sort of stuff. So it's kind of, I think it's neat. You know, it's a neat game. But I think that since they were riding on the Syndicate nostalgia thing, that there are probably going to be some people who are a little bit disappointed. But it's still cool. It feels a lot more stealth oriented than Syndicate ever was. In Syndicate, you just crank up your agents and you blast in and blow everything up and stuff. And I guess the mission structure allowed you to do that without having any kind of lasting effect. It was like you go in. Doesn't matter if you make a massive explosion and kill 800 people. The next mission will always be the next mission. You're starting from scratch without having to deal with the consequences of your previous actions. But having this kind of lasting impact that you can have encourages more stealth gameplay, and that's really cool. I really, really like the stealth stuff. Have either of you guys had a chance to look at Satellite Rain at all?
I haven't been able to play any of the recent updates, but it seems a lot like Syndicate is more of a inspiration for them rather than a driving force for what they want the game to be like.
Yeah, it's definitely like I say, it's the mood and the atmosphere and the aesthetic feels like it's coming from there, but the game itself is its own game.
If it's like Syndicate, I want to check it out.
The recent
Syndicate was a cool game.
It was so cool. That's the original Syndicate rather than the new thing that is not Syndicate. The recent update also brings the engine up to Unity 5, which seems to... I can't tell for sure because I had a system upgrade in the meantime, but it seems to improve performance a little bit.
It's your fancy new hardware speaking.
Oh, yeah. And it also makes... there were a couple of features that made the Linux build behave quite poorly. SSR specifically, and that seems to be working fine now, so that's really cool. But yeah, if you're kind of interested in this idea of a sort of cyberpunk dystopia, open world stealthy squad thing, it's cool.
And if that interests you, you might also like Invisible Ink.
I like what, sorry?
Invisible Ink.
Oh yeah. Yeah, they're kind of interesting similarities and obvious differences between them.
Very different games, but there are some parallels.
Yeah.
Let's move on to a new game that has been ported to Linux. It's Spec Ops: The Line from Jaeger Entertainment. It's an Unreal Engine 3 game, which virtual programming ported with their Eon technology. It's a very cool game. It's a shooter, but it has some moral stuff you have to think about, and the game doesn't tell you. You can decide on some things, and maybe later on a video on the web you find out that you could have made a different decision.
Wouldn't it be better to, isn't talking about that stuff, isn't that kind of spoilery?
I didn't say where the situations are.
It seems like the people people who've had their minds blown are people who went in expecting it to be just a straight up military shooter.
Well, the game was greatly hyped for its story, so
Very much so.
expect something, but you'll find out if you get to play it. Now, my experience, it's super smooth on my computer, except for when it's not. So there's stutters where it drops down to like 1 FPS for a short period, and then shoots back up. So this is something that BP will probably work on in all their other ports. Despite the poor performance, they've always fixed it up a little bit, still paid attention to it.
It also has some missions where you can play cooperatively. Unfortunately, you cannot play the campaign cooperatively. But those Spec Ops missions are also quite some fun and quite difficult.
Yeah, and it also has a competitive multiplayer mode.
Yeah, I heard that it was like single mission or something.
Yeah, there are some single missions which you can play cooperatively.
It's funny, when I heard that, I thought of Rage's co-op, like self-contained co-op missions.
Yeah.
But I didn't mean to interrupt you, and I'm doing it again.
The game is on sale at the moment, so if you're keen, check it out.
Unmechanical.
Yeah, one thing.
Oh, sorry.
One thing I want to mention about Spec Ops again is that's some obvious thing if you have seen some intro videos or something like that. It plays in Dubai, and the sand is a very important element in the game. Because sometimes you have to use the sand as your friend, and when the sand is in a stormy mood, it can also be your enemy.
Neat. Moving on, 3D platformer Unmechanical. The developers have announced that they're going to have a Linux beta soon. I think that's another Unreal Engine 3 title, which I had my eye on for a little while. And I'm pretty happy to hear that it's on its way.
Oh, cool.
And another game that's on its way as well, which will be launching in early access in June, that we were talking about a little bit earlier before the show, is Ark: Survival Evolved.
So this game, it looks kind of like a first-person MMO survival game with a vast world of dinosaurs.
Hooray! And fire-breathing dragons.
Yes. And the ability to build your own base, and a bunch of other things. So, it certainly looks interesting.
And ride dinosaurs and shoot guns. I mean, that's what it's all about,
Yeah.
right? I mean, who doesn't want to fly a pterosaur around and shoot stuff?
So they haven't really talked much about how the gameplay will exactly be.
Sorry, I think you're missing that you get to fly around on pterosaurs and shoot stuff.
But they have shown that you can fly around.
We don't need to know about gameplay.
Shoot stuff.
No, it does. I mean, what I've seen looks kind of neat, but you're right. It is a little bit vague on how the gameplay is going to work.
If anything, the world itself looks interesting, so we'll have to see how it plays when it gets closer to release, or when it's available for us.
Yeah. And it's kind of interesting. Like, the trailer shows that there's quite a mix of tech in the game, ranging from crafting spears through to like assault rifles.
Yeah. There's also a bit of mystery in some thing poking through your skin in your arm. Not sure. That seems like it's some element of the story.
It's like some kind of gem. So yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see how this one evolves. Whether it's gonna have local servers, or whether it's gonna be online stuff only. They make a fuss about being able to tame and train dinosaurs.
Yeah. And also the huge variety of different animals you can encounter.
Anyway, moving on to crowdfunding. I've recently backed a driving game called Power Drive 2000, which is a super retro.
What kind of game is it?
It's a really retro kind of neon early 90s, well, maybe even 80s. I don't know. It feels very 80s-ish. Yeah, no, it's 80s. Totally 80s sci-fi inspired. Car racing game. It seems to call out to a lot of like kind of arcade racing games like Outrun and stuff. but it's got its own kind of distinct style going on. It's going to have a whole stack of modes. So racing against ghosts from like players or things on the leaderboard, or just racing against the clock. There's modes where you got to go through the tracks and collect all these collectibles as you race. There's a mode where there's obstacles and giant laser chasing you and stuff, and so it's this kind of survival type thing. And yeah, they can have multiplayer support and local multiplayer support and online multiplayer support and
it just screams retro.
words, stuff. Yeah, it does.
So if that aesthetic appeals to you, definitely check it out.
All you people who are complaining about racing games not existing on Linux, this is the one to go for. People who say that distance is too sci-fi, or it's too futuristic, this is totally retro. Get it? Dear. There is one thing that I thought was a little bit sad about this particular campaign, which is that if you want the DRM copies, if you want the DRM free copies, you got to back at a higher tier. It's like $6 more or something, which is bizarre. I can't understand any rationale for that. Yeah. Corbin, you threw in this one, Darkness Anomaly?
Yeah, I just heard about it today and saw that it will be also be released on Linux. I don't know much about it. I just viewed the trailer. It's an open world horror survival game where you will be playing a detective who has to investigate a murder or something. And as the story goes on, the horror is also going more and more immersive.
It's also a German developer.
Yeah.
Yeah, the idea of an open world horror game is certainly not well explored. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, this would be interesting to see how that plays out. So another crowdfunding campaign that I had backed was ages ago, Hero U, which is two former Sierra game designers have come together to make a new kind of game that has the spirit and character of the Quest for Glory series. I don't know if either of you guys have played that much. Might have been before your time here.
Oh, those Sierra Quest games have been cool. I played the Space Quest.
Yeah, Space Quest is pretty funny.
Series a lot. Yeah. They had recently have a crowdfunding campaign for a new game.
Right.
The two guys from Andromeda.
Yep. So I don't know how that's progressing. It seems like it's taking longer than they expected, which, that's game dev for you. But yeah, so the Hero U, I guess, is in a similar situation. They have come back for a second crowdfunding campaign, which launched a few days back. And in it, they talk a little bit about how their original vision for the game was something that was meant to be a little bit more roguelike-ish, I guess. And they said that as the campaign their original crowdfunding campaign went on, and in the time following, they've come to realize that what people are after is something closer to what Quest for Glory was, and they spent a lot of the intervening time, reworking the game and reworking the art style and reworking what goes on to be that sort of game, and they're coming back and asking if they can get a little bit more money. I think it's 1/5 of what their original goal was. So yeah, and just kind of nice to see them paying attention to what people were looking for when they got on board, I guess.
Yeah. No, it is still
So
may not be roguelike in genre, but you still play as a rogue, sneaking around.
You do. So the original idea was that this was going to be the first in a series of games that explored all of these kind of fantasy hero characters. One might be a warrior, another one might be a magic user, or or whatever, and the one that they wanted to start on was a thief, and so the subtitle for this game is Rogue to The subtitle for this game is Rogue to Redemption, and you play Sean, who is studying at the Thieves Guild at the moment, at the start of the game, and he gets given an opportunity to join or to enroll at Hero U rather than continue on the path that he was already on.
And take classes to learn how to be like me.
Exactly.
Or something like that.
So, was there anything else that you guys wanted to cover?
Nope, that's about it.
Brilliant.
So, thank you everyone for joining us. As always, you can leave feedback via email at cast@steamlug.org. You can drop into IRC at irc.freenode.net on the SteamLUG channel. You can tweet us at SteamLUG. Or, of course, plus SteamLUG on Google+, or listen to the cast and watch our gaming videos occasionally on our YouTube channel, SteamLUG.
So, see you everybody next time.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Oh, we're starting recording. All right.
I started recording.
I'll start recording. If you start recording, I start recording.
Woo!
All these Japanese flags.
So, before we dive into our usual content, we might just, no, never mind, I misfired. You can do this, Hero.
Okay.
I like to do the edit later.
And what about you, Wertle? Actually, we'll cut this out of the edit, I'm sure. But do you prefer Lisa or do you prefer Wertle?
I am fine with either, honestly. I guess so hard. Lisa's fine. We'll do Lisa, but I respond to both. You can use them interchangeably. You can mix them up. I'm fine.
Feel like redoing the intro later.
That's all right. We'll work through
Totally
it.
flexible.